It's good to see you guys. Just coming off this game and the road trip, it's good to be back. It's exciting to be in another game week versus a really strong opponent, one that I respect greatly, and Coach Campbell and just the staff there, and their body of work just speaks for itself. And then you put on the tape and you see it all over again. A new grouping, new faces, but same results. And so, what a challenge ahead of us. But I feel like in a lot of ways, it's exactly what we need. To win this game, we're going to have to run the ball. To win this game, we're going to have to stop the run. To win this game, we're going to have to do grown-up things in a grown-up game. And so I'm looking forward to that challenge. I know that our team is going to, and expecting a really good week of preparation. Take any questions that you guys got.
Dave, how much special teams can impact the game? Obviously, it was big the other day. Do you like how your special teams has developed, and do you feel like it can continue to, make that sort of impact?
Appreciate that. I thought, we had one of our better weeks of practice leading up to the Tech game with special teams, and was really thinking that this is going to be a breakout game, and there's been so much work in this, and the details were kind of coming easy, the hard things were becoming fun, and the learning things were becoming just fast and violent, and was figuring, here we go, we're finally here. And it was our worst special teams game, and there's been some of that this year. And so to kind of pound the rock and to continue to focus on being intentional in meetings and practice, and to continue to focus, try to find an edge of, these guys, particular guys, maybe some of them are young, maybe some of them are second, third chances or tries or bites at the apple, and have an opportunity to kind of make it with special teams. I think that was kind of the focus, and a lot of those guys stood up and performed really well. And I thought, that day that we're expecting to have a couple weeks ago, we had on Saturday. And so, that has to be the standard now. And I think when there are pains, self-inflicted pains, growing pains, there's all various different types of pains on offense and or defense. You'd like for special teams to kind of be a glue that can hold some of it together and get you the field position and get you out of a jam and get you points and take away points and that. And so I'm hopeful that's where it can go moving forward.
Last year, the environment kind of was made a big deal at Iowa State. You guys having to deal with that environment. Mm-hmm. How do you think you guys are going to have to almost replicate that at McLean and give that kind of same environment just at home this time?
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think a big part of that is us starting fast. I think we have to start faster than what we have. And, whether that is the first drive on offense, having some success and getting points out of it, or at the very least moving the ball and having some positive plays. And then defensively, first 2 or 3 drives, illustrating our run fits and our pass rush and our coverage abilities and all of that at the get-go. I think we have to be able to start fast. And I think that would help get the crowd into it. That would help get the crowd to go, this isn't what it's been. This is different. I have to pay attention to this. And I think, we have a big responsibility in that. And to get it to where it has been in the past with our home crowd, and all of it is way important, and it's a big factor for this week, and it's something I'm going to talk about a lot.
Dave, you kind of addressed it after the game, but do you feel like the answers are there for run defense? Like the pieces are there, the whatever it takes?
Yeah, appreciate that. So I thought throughout, if you go through all of these, the water is muddy on all of these things, and so it's much easier to speak when it's really clear water, but it's muddy from the beginning, and so it's trying to get the it's trying to be as clear and as precise as we can in just this right here talking to you. I think UCF there was a lot of bad early. There was really good later. I thought even with Tech and some of the yards that were given up there was tighter run fits. There was in the interior, people were not playing primary to secondary gap kind of at will. They were holding their gaps. We had fits. We had a linebacker here and a safety here, and an edge was here. And from the lens of a coach, it looked like, hey, here's everyone. They know what they're doing. They know where they're supposed to be, and all that. And so while it wasn't perfect or good, it was improved. And we took a step back on Saturday, and so that's unfortunate. And I think to start the game, there was some positives. In that second series, I thought the first series, this was the second start for our star, and he's done a bunch of great things, and he's a great player, and I think will continue to just only get better. And I want to say in those the very first play was lined up on the wrong side. The third play, he was supposed to adjust and didn't adjust, and there's a big run. And, there was just a lot of things that we can be better at. And I think, you expect some of those things maybe on the first game, not the second one, but I guess it was the first away game. And so, those growing pains you have to learn from, and you have to build up confidence with, and you have to not do it again, And so, for us to defend the run, the pieces are there. We have to be able to put it together. It's past time to do that.
Coach, you said you wanted to start fast on Saturday. You said you want to play better at home. Can you talk about how important it is that y'all are returning home for homecoming to get that win?
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think we're fixing on having some former players come and talk to the team just about how important homecoming is and how important it is to play well at McLean, and just their experiences of what it's like when McLean is rocking and it's at its peak. And I just think there is right now, I think especially when things are not going great and there's adversity and there's people for you, people against you. When you go on the road, it's very clear that most everyone's against you, and so the lines are kind of clearly drawn, and so it's us versus everybody. And I think when you're at home, those lines are blurred, maybe. And I just think we're thinking too much in those frameworks. I don't really like us thinking that way. I'd rather us just focus on the task at hand, and here's what we can do to accomplish this win. Here's what we can do to win this play, to win this series, to win this quarter, to win this game. And so a lot of it's going to be refocusing on that, and getting that mindset, in the moment and in the process of all of it, and to try to let go of some of the outside. But then I think along with that, just the history and the lineage of guys that have come before and have really played well at home. I think that is important, and want our guys to know.
You brought up Gavin Buers after the Cincinnati game as kind of being on both sides, immaturity, maturity. What adversity has he gone through, and kind of how did he recreate himself?
Appreciate that. Yeah, Gavin's one to where has always had the ability and has always had the work ethic. And I think it's been when he hasn't been in the building and he hasn't been with football, it's been the effort in the time away, and it's been in the attention to detail and the focus on things that are not within the building, that are kind of on his own. You could say that everything is important and everything counts and everything matters. You could say how you do anything is how you do everything. These are things that are very hard for almost 50-year-old men, much less college students. And I think it's been a growth for him to kind of adopt a professional attitude, so to speak, of the away, the nutrition, the prehab and rehab, the focus on in the classroom and his schooling. And it's just crazy how when those things are kind of brought into focus and are being attacked, and another way of saying this is not being run away from, when there's an embracing of everything, and then how football kind of gets taken care of without a whole bunch of effort, And so I think that describes him. And then I think, there's some young dudes that are in that room with him. And so I think there's been just a growth of him being one of the boys to kind of being one of the dads. And I think that just kind of naturally comes when you've got young guys like that and you reach a certain point where, like, you're the old dude, and then you start kind of acting like an old dude, which is, for us, is a good thing.
Dave, one of the possessions the other day, I think you guys lost 3 yards, and you still get points out of it because Isaiah makes a long kick. What can you say about how he's playing?
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think, I spoke a little bit this on Saturday, but I just think that Isaiah is just a way strong example of what can be possible. And I think, when I think of him, I think of his faith, number one. I think of his family, number two. And then I think of, how he treats people. And then I think of, he's a great kicker. And I think that's a way cool thing. And and that's intentional by him. And he all of that matters to him. His faith is a big, big part of his life. And his family is very, very strong for him, and I think those aren't things that he says; those are things that he does. And I think what's one of the things that's cool about this is that the light can be shined on Isaiah and just the way that he does what he does and the way he handles himself and everything. Because I think that can be there are people like that, and that can be done that way. And so it's just, I'm proud of him.
Dave, we talked about to open up the run game, you got to open up the passing game, and you told us last week that your receivers are due for that outing that you know that they're capable of. What did you see from the passing game on Saturday, and how are you hoping, that momentum carries over into this Saturday?
Appreciate that. I am proud of Keytron and a lot of those one-on-one catches that he had. I think that there is a lot of confidence right now with him walking around, so that's really cool to see. I think Keytron's been a guy that is that guy, and on the inside he doesn't think he's that guy, and so for him to have some success on the field is, I think for some of us we need to be told that we're that guy, and so I think all of that is a cool thing, and I feel good about that moving forward. I think that, I'm disappointed with just our in-breaking routes. I thought we had some runs with some passes that were tagged to it, and there is some potential for big plays there. And, whether it was a misfire or a mishandling we got to get rid of the misses with that, Now, I think it was the very first play of the game. We had a ball that was spit out fast, and I thought we had a hand on a foot, and it was maybe we fell forward for 3-4 yards. That could have been a 20, 30, 40-yard gain. And I think that's where we need to be. We need to be in that space. And because we've got guys, I believe, that are those guys. And so, we got an opportunity on Saturday for all that. If we could take some of the one-on-one throws and that confidence and that, and then apply that into runs after catches. I think, some of the contested catches we're making, the runs after catch we need to make to be able to help this offense, help this team.
Dave, I don't believe Hal Presley played on Saturday. Did he pick up an injury in practice or something else?
He did, yeah. Hal is injured, and so he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. He had lower body injury, and so that was on Thursday, and so we're hopeful that we can get some wins here and get into the bowl season, and then we get Hal back.
Coach, kind of going back to that running game, you've been talking for weeks now about really getting that established again, but kind of another lackluster performance, at least in that regard. How has the room kind of responded to maybe those frustrations of not being able to get the ground game going, and how do you go about fixing that this week?
Appreciate that. Going into the game, the thought was to throw it a bunch, was to have run actions and try to get linebackers to get sucked up in line of scrimmage and then throw behind them. And those were those passes that we just talked about that we had the opportunity to complete and we did not. And so that was really the plan going in. And, so it was not to run, but it was to give the run actions to try to get the defense to act a certain way to create space. And, we'd have outside leverage on some of the receivers and take advantage of that, And so in the second half, at halftime rather, the discussion was, hey, we feel good about the run game here. We haven't, I don't know how many runs were actually called in the first half, very few. And so I think we started the game with a run and started to go. And I thought, that second half, we were able to get some running game going. I thought that there was some movement that we were able to create. There was some nastiness that we were able to show. And there was some positive, falling forward in that. So I think there's a feeling with them of like, hey, man, we can do this. Come on, let's go. And so I think that's a good thing. And there's a chip on the shoulder probably of all of it. And so I think it's probably where you'd want it going into a game like this, where we're definitely going to have to run the ball.
Dave, kind of like the offensive line, do you feel like you're still trying to find the right combination in the secondary?
Appreciate that one. I think that the big change for us was our movement at star, and feel really good about that. With all the misalignments, even with all the misalignments, I really feel good about our star and the future of that, with the ability to both cover and then blitz and be able to play back at safety as needed. So, that position's playing corner, star, and safety, and it's a freshman that's doing it. And so I feel really good about that. I think the safety spots, I think for some of the perimeter run support, our crack replacing, which we're going to get a fair amount of this in this game. And so, I think a lot of the ills that we've put on tape, whether it's getting adjusted to shifts and motions, whether it's fitting off crack replace, whether it's running the ball and it's a light box and they invite you to run and they close down so fast, all those things, the things that have hurt us most are the things that this team does well, And so we're kind of running right into that storm, man, and it's time for that, And I think all the things that we've gone through have gotten us ready for that. And I think I feel good about the guys that we've got. We've got to be able to execute better, and they're going to watch the tape today and they're going to see it clear. And I think we all can get better, coaches included, with some of this. And for us to have a challenge ahead of a game that's way meaningful and a game that's going to way test our deficiencies, I think is right on time for us.
What is it about Iowa State that jumps out on tape, both offensively and defensively?
Physicality, identity. They play together. They play complementary football, and so I think it's you know who you're watching, and you know what the standard is when you watch them.
Dave, you kind of had almost a taste of successes and failures throughout your time, or shortcomings, I guess. How do you kind of evaluate this season, and what have you learned as a coach, I guess, with those shortcomings this year?
Appreciate that. Yeah, we were talking about that today as a staff. We were watching a clip from with Tua, and he's talking about just kind of his growth as a person and who he's become, and just kind of his transformation as a person. And I thought it was way powerful. Have played against Tua. Tua's put up a bunch of points versus us and all of that, and have seen him and just in all of it. And then being back in Hawaii and knowing Cowley and the coach that coached him in high school, and knowing his parents and just all that, is that Tua was always just been, I think, kind of self-enclosed, grit your teeth, eyes down, And obviously, when it's time to perform, he does that. But off the field, just looks like a indentured servitude, maybe. Yet, so to see this interview where he's smiling, it's lighthearted, there's a joy in there. I think that's just the power of a mentor or a coach. You talk about his coach that he has now, and I just think it's so cool. And so one of the things that came up in that when we're talking is, well, Dave, their record is so and so. I know the game last night, but when you win, you can so much. It's easy to talk like this, and it's easy to be like this, and everyone's patting on your back, or they're having this kind of interview that highlights this thing, and it's just. But and while I agree with that, and I can see that, but I think when you can, like when you're suffering, and if you see that God in your suffering, then any type of like wounds you take on or can be sacred wounds. And I think the words I use is the ordinary life of a coach can become now a godly journey, right? And so I just think, and when there's people around you that are just like, what do I do? What do we? The sky is falling, all this thing, and very well maybe, but you could be that transformational thing that could help like a Tua or these other people, and I think that's the main calling right there. That's the deal, and so I think it's all easier when you win. I think it's probably more real when you lose. So I'd say it like that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.